and Mirajalin. Just past Mirajalin, we're going to sail underneath the old mill crossing ahead of us. So named because of the old Nat Lewis Mill that was founded here in 1845, which used to grind grain for many of the citizens in the mid-1800s. Bus marks were ahead of us. It's the last major crossing along the river for horse-drawn carriages for the arrival of the automobile in San Antonio. And marks will sail by the Westin Hotel to the right of our boat here. Itself the last major hotel to open along the Riverwalk in the last century. Opened in November of 1999, just across the river from the Tower Light building, way up to the left of our boat in the sky right here. This very popular fixture, the San Antonio skyline right here, which itself opened to the public on June 1st, 1929 as the Smith and Young Tower, named after its owners, the Smith brothers and their lawyer, J.W. Young, who wanted to build this big, huge complex of buildings on this whole area of land to our left, which they planned would be similar to New York City's Rockefeller Center. They were going to call that project Bowen's Island Skyscrapers, with the Smith and Young Tower here as the centerpiece. Unfortunately, once again, this building opened to the public on June 1st, 1929. Stock market crashed just a few months later. Smith and Young went bankrupt, had to sell this property, and eventually it switched hands over the years, and since then, it's become home up here to the Tower Life Insurance Company, hence the Tower Light building. Just across the river from a couple of these parade boats coming up to the Wawa boat, which are getting ready for the Festival of Lanterns that's going to be taking place tonight and the next 2 nights as well. Festival of Lanterns is an annual event that ordinarily takes place in February alongside the New Year Festival. Last 2 years, though, they moved it back to September just because of the pandemic, unfortunately. But they're still doing it, and basically these boats are going to be lit up here and still all around the Rushman area of the river from 8 to 10 here tonight. So it'll start in about half an hour. And if you miss them tonight, they'll be here again tomorrow night as well, and Sunday as well, 8 to 10. So, you know, if you have some free time any night, go ahead and grab a seat along the walk here so you can see them still live. When these parade boats are not in operation, they're actually docked at the old Marina off to the right of the. You look through the little gate there, you can even see some of them lit up in there. This old Marina here, it's underneath the International Center. This big green building here used to be home to the San Antonio Public Library from 1968 until 1998. It then became home to the offices of the North American Development Bank, as well as the old Marina here, which is one of 2 marinas where my company in the city dock our boats during evenings, which has the Bear County Courthouse just past it, up ahead of us. This big red building here was founded up here over a century ago, in 1896, and thus is considered the oldest continuously operating courthouse in all of Texas. It's going to mark where we'll be exiting gate 4 right here, which just as we approach this green light in front of our boat, if you look to the side of the boat here, you'll see these metal walls. These mark where there is a drawbridge in the water that comes up along with the rest of this flood channel up here. During heavy rains and major flooding, so as to make sure the water levels behind us within the main Rushman area of the Riverwalk remain the same at all times. As we enter into this flood channel, it has gate 5, 200 yards to the left of our boat, the top of a waterfall down there, which has the new marina off to the right side of it. That waterfall down there is about 15 feet deep, with the Riverwalk continuing on down past that waterfall, alongside the backs of the homes of the King Williams District. Lovely old German neighborhood down there that's very popular. Take a nice leisurely stroll through during the day, and marks where we've made this turn into the main channel of the San Antonio River, which itself, San Antonio River, begins about 4 miles north ahead of our boat at the University of the Incarnate Word, at a small little fountain known as the Blue Hole, which comes out of the ground in the former springs in the Edwards Aquifer. The San Antonio River begins at that Blue Hole, flows down here, and continues on down south behind us for over 180 miles till it empties into the Guadalupe River, just about 2 miles from San Antonio Bay, which then empties into the Gulf of Mexico. We are not in natural waters. Because originally the river would flow down here, veer off to our right up ahead of us through what is now Floodgate 3, go all the way to the bush bit area of the river and come out behind us, where Floodgate 4 is to this day. To the right above over here we have the Plaza Hotel. This building here used to be the Alamo Bank building, but it became the Plaza back in 2007 and donated this sidewalk to the city. It serves as a shortcut between Floodgates 4 and 3 and marks where this all used to be land here. The city dug it up all the way down to 15 feet deep below us and built this bypass flood channel here in the mid-1920s in response to a flood that our city suffered from on September 9th, 1921. A flood that was so bad that some business leaders at the time even pressured city leaders to pave over the bush bit area of the river and turn it into a sewer. Luckily, San Antonio Conservation Society was founded around this time, in 1924, by two men, Marina Green and Emily Edwards, who themselves went before city commissioners in 1924 and performed a puppet show, The Goose That Laid the Golden Eggs, pleading with the city leaders not to kill the goose that will lay the golden eggs in the city of San Antonio. And they were successful in convincing the city leaders not to move over the bush bit area of the river, which is what we're going to re-enter to here, cutting off the north channel, which are regular 12-volt stone wall, as it's mostly just residential office buildings up here. Hold on, more quiet and peaceful. Not as much to talk about on these 12 volts. But before we do enter back into the bush bit area of the river, you look in front of our boat and above here at the corner, you'll see the largest and oldest tree along the entire Riverwalk. Over 9 stories tall and over 300 years old, known as the Ben Malam Cypress tree or Ben Malam Sniper tree, in honor of Benjamin Rushman, one of the heroes of the Texan Revolution. He was the leader of the Texas rebellious forces for the first half of the Battle of Bear, which was the final battle of the Texan Revolution before the Battle of the Alamo. The Battle of Bear took place on December 5th until December 9th of 1835. Third day of battle, December 7th, Benjamin Rushman was standing just across the river to the left of our boat at the foot of the staircase over here, where he was shot and killed from what a lot of people said must have been from a sniper from up on the branches of this tree right here. That's the reason why they call it the Ben Malam Cypress tree or Ben Malam Sniper tree to this day. The marks will rejoin the natural flow of the river and sail underneath Floodgate 3 here, which comes down from above, like a garage door, alongside the rest of this flood channel. Again, during heavy rains, so as to make sure the water levels ahead of us remain the same at all times and don't wash out any of the restaurants or businesses along the way. Where you want a great visual aid of just how bad flooding got here for that flood on September 9th, 1921. To the left of our boat, we're sailing by the Hotel. This building here became the in 1999, but originally it was a city public service building in the early 20th century, where for that flood, September 9th, 1921, flood waters reached to the top of the first floor windows right here, getting to over 10 feet above street level in the downtown area all around us. Over 50 people lost their lives, and there was millions of dollars of property damage. It was not the first, nor the most recent, definitely the most significant flood in our city's history, since it's the one that inspired the construction of the flood channel back behind us, as well as the Almost Dam, a few miles north to the left of our road. But back down here along the river level, we're going to sail by the Aztec Theater to the right of our boat here. Itself the last Aztec themed theater in the entire state of Texas. Founded here in 1926 as a silent movie theater, changed its format over the years, however, fell under hard times, and eventually closed down in the 80s. The city almost tore this building down then, until the San Antonio Conservation Society were able to purchase the property, restore and reopen it a few years back, right next door to the Mercado Hotel, just past it. It used to be home to the L. Frank Saddle League in the early 20th century, which used to provide saddles and harnesses to Theodore Roosevelt and his forefathers during the Spanish-American War, famous Mexican revolutionary Francisco Pancho Villa, and Allied forces during World War I. Well then, Mark, we'll sail underneath Salinas Bridge here in front of us, named in honor of the famous Tejano seeker, Selena Quintanilla Perez, Actor Jennifer Lopez sat right here on this footbridge for a scene during the movie Selena, 1997.
Wow.
If you all recall, was her mainstream breakthrough role. They filmed right here on this footbridge for a scene during the evening, and afterwards, Jennifer Lopez spent the night at La Mansión del Rio Hotel to the left of our boat. Spanish for the mansion on the river. It was founded over a century ago in 1853 as the St. Mary's School for Boys. It later became home to the St. Mary's Law School in 1934, and then was purchased by two former students of St. Mary's in 1966, who then restored, reopened it 2 years later, 1968, La Mansión del Rio Hotel. If you look at La Mansión del Rio Hotel here, just past it, you'll see this very tall building right here, whose walls form a very sharp corner, less than 90 degrees. As a result, the tall building up here creates a really awesome little optical illusion along the wall.
There it is,
Where,
right there.
as we sail out from underneath Navarro Street Bridge, on the other side, you look way up to the left of the boat. From this view, this tall building up here looks like a tall, flat wall about to fall on us.
Yes, the architecture.
This right here was founded in 1930 as the Next General Hospital. At the time, the first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospital in the entire United States. Unfortunately, we had to sell the property 2 years ago when it reopens. It's supposed to be reopening as a Marriott Hotel, right alongside the North Square up ahead of us here, otherwise known as the nightlife of the river, all around us here this morning. Where right in the heart of the North Square is the Hyatt Regency Hotel up in front of our boat above Precious Street Bridge, which has the Alamo just on the other side of it. As a result, the Hyatt is only 16 floors tall. They wanted to make it taller when they founded it in 1981, but the San Antonio Conservation Society convinced its owners to scale it down the size so that it wouldn't cast a shadow on the Alamo during sunset. Though they did reserve room on the bottom river level of the Hyatt up here for shops that pass sail the Alamo right up here. Spanish for Passageway to the Alamo, this very beautiful area on the inside. We'll take you up to right in front of the Alamo, on Alamo Plaza Street. Continue on straight through there at that point.
This plane is done.
Just past the Hyatt Regency Hotel, we're going to sail by the old casino club building to the bottom of our boat. Founded here in 1927 as a social club with German immigrants. Now it's home to a Saltgrass Steakhouse restaurant here, however, as well as an apartment complex on the very top, where Elaine Huckman used to live. She was the widow of Robert Harvey Harold Huckman. Robert Harvey Harold Huckman was the architect who designed the entire Riverwalk all around us. This was all his vision right here. Robert Huckman designed all of the sidewalks, staircases, bridges, benches, everything you see around us here, the mid-1920s. And presented his designs for shops of Itagon and Romula, as he originally called it, the City Litters in 1929, hoping to secure funding for the Riverwalk. Sadly, City Litters rejected the proposed Riverwalk, but Robert Huckman wasn't going to give up that easily. Throughout the next few years, he was able to gather some popular support and funding for his vision for a Riverwalk from a variety of sources, including Moy Mallard. He was congressman from San Antonio, who was very intrigued by the idea for a Riverwalk. Moy Mallard asked his good friend, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to send the Works Projects Administration down here, which President Roosevelt was reluctant to do at first. In fact, Moy Mallard had to ask him so many times, put so much pressure on him, so that at one point, it's even rumored that President Roosevelt said, "Give Moy Mallard the money for his damn rivers to put bother me already." Finally, after much pressure, the Works Projects Administration came down here and built the Riverwalk all around us, from March 27, 1939 until March 14, 1941. just under 2 full years. Though Robert Hutman himself, he's considered the father of the Riverwalk to this day. In fact, right after the Riverwalk was completed in 1941, Robert Hutman set up his old office just to the right of our boat on the bottom river level of this last building at the corner. If you look up on this balcony on street level, you'll see Robert Hutman's old office sign with his initials, R.H.H. Hutman, followed by AIA, which stands for American Institute of Architects. If you look at Robert Hutman's old office sign, just down from it, you'll see a bust of Robert Hutman at the base of the staircase here as well, along with a few plaques around here to tell a little bit more about his history. In case anyone wants to come down here later, read up on him, learn a little bit more. Like I said, he set up shop over here again in 1941, right after the Riverwalk was completed, because he wanted to prove that a business could thrive upon the Riverwalk. Despite the Professor itself, in its early years, it didn't do too well. Crime used to be a huge problem down here. Got so bad that at one point, this Riverwalk was even declared off limits to the military because of safety concerns. What actually changed the Riverwalk's luck, made it much safer down here, and as a result, more successful to this day was the World's Fair that our city hosted in 1968. And in the years leading up to that World's Fair in 1968, the city raised funds in order to help clean out the river, beef up security, and also build this man-made extension of the river that we're going to be turning into right here, which all used to be land here the rest of the way down. The city built the bridges above us on street level and dug it out underneath them, all the way down to 5 feet below us, so that they could extend the river and the Riverwalk all the way up to the Hemisphere Plaza, which is where that World's Fair took place from April 6th until October 6th, 1968. Good full 6 months for which millions of people came down here to San Antonio. Many of whom found their way to the Riverwalk here and thought that it was so beautiful. So when a lot of them went home, they told all of their friends about the Riverwalk. Their friends came down here, went back home, told all of their friends, so on and so on. So that now, thanks to word of mouth, since that Woodard's there, this Riverwalk to this day is in constant rivalry with the Alamo for the coveted title of most visited tourist destination in all of Texas, which has made it much safer down here for the military, which is a good thing since San Antonio is also a very big military town. Birthplace, in fact, of the U.S. Air Force. At the first U.S. military flight took place here in San Antonio on March 2nd, 1910, by Lieutenant Benjamin Delahaw Floyd, with an including of the Rifles. San Antonio to this day is also home to Lackland Air Force Base as well, which is where everyone within the enlisted branch of the United States Air Force comes for basic training, earning it the nickname the Gateway to the Air Force. Now, to the right of our boat, you'll see the latest addition to the Riverwalk, this big metal sculpture that was put up here in mid-April of these 2 giant metal flowers that were built using spare bicycle parts. This is a sculpture that's named Bloom. It was designed by a local artist down here named Leticia Huerta. If you look at Bloom right here, just past it, continuing to look up to the right of our boat in the sky here, you'll see the Tower of Americas, which was the centerpiece for the World's Fair in '68. Founded up here that year in 1968, and at the time it stood as the tallest freestanding tower in the entire United States of America. It stood at 750 feet to the top of the antenna, just a little bit taller than the Seattle Space Needle.
Wow.
And maintained that title as tallest freestanding tower in the United States of America for a good 28 years, until the Stratosphere, Las Vegas, was founded in 1996. That Tower of Americas, though, still open up there to this day in the Hemisphere Plaza, which is a city park to this day, on the other side of the Henry V. Gonzalez Convention Center, which is at the end of this extension way to the right of our boat at this fork here, which itself is unfortunately closed to our regular towboats. So instead, we're going to take a left turn at this fork and enter into the River Center extension, which itself was added on later. Dug up here down to 5 feet deep the rest of the way down in the mid-'80s so that they could extend this man-made area of the river all the way up to the River Center Mall. The River Center Mall was founded in 1988, but before they founded the River Center Mall, they wanted to put these 2 Marriott hotels here in 1979. Marriott on the left over on the other side of Commerce Street, they had no trouble putting up. The Marriott to the right of our boat, in its spot here, used to sit the old Fairmont Hotel. an abandoned building which they wanted to tear down to make room for this Marriott. The San Antonio Conservation Society got involved and claimed that the Fairmont Hotel up here was too historic to tear down, since it used to be an old salesman's hotel. So instead, after more than 5 years of negotiating resident funds and planning, they took the 3-story, 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel, which would be back here, loaded it onto about 36 axles, 8 truck cars each, and 30 steel beams. Then wrapped it up in steel cables, which were connected to trucks. To drive that 1,600-ton Fairmont Hotel, March 30th till April 4th of 1985, just about 6 blocks south and to the west behind us, to its new location at South Alamo and Woodard. Well, then reopened as a first-class hotel, and in its old spot, they were then able to put the Marriott Riverwalk back behind us. Followed, of course, by the River Center Mall right here, whose heart we're entering into right here. Itself, the second largest mall here in all of San Antonio, facing out only by the North Star Mall on the north side of Loop 410 in San Pedro. This is, however, the only mall here in all of San Antonio with a road right into its very center, hence River Center. It has over 100 stores and restaurants here, 2 movie theaters, regular AMC movie theater, plus an IMAX theater, much taller water screen, a couple of neat little virtual reality simulator rides on the very top floor, live music here, usually during the weekends, and also a neat little fun bouncing ride for the kids, just to the left of our boat through the windows up here.
Oh, wow.
In fact, any of you mothers want to come down here, go shopping, you can just drop your kids off at this bouncing ride, and the gentlemen you can just drop off at the daycare center for men up to the rod of our boat here. Now, as we exit this whole River Center Mall area here, after San Antonio hosted the World's Fair in 1968, a lot of the countries who had attended it were very grateful to our city for having hosted that World's Fair. Some of them even gave us some lovely presents afterwards, one of which was the country of Portugal, whose government had a pavilion down here, where in front of their pavilion they had a statue very to this river, and the city built around it were named after. And that statue was eventually placed just around this one turn, up to the bottom of in the corner up here. Statue right here of Saint Anthony de Padua, who's depicted as holding the baby Jesus in the center on top of a Bible. He was a 12th century Catholic patron saint of lost and stolen items, as well as the patron saint of Portugal. Hence the reason why the Portuguese government had the statue in front of their pavilion. San Antonio is Spanish for San Anthony. The story goes back during the age of exploration. The country of more or less planned to much of what is now modern Texas and Mexico had expeditions sent out in order to set up missions so that they could convert some of the local natives down here. And also created a defensive border against French-occupied Louisiana, since French and Spanish empires were major rivals with each other for territory in the Americas at the time. One expedition was sent out in 1691, which came upon this river on June 13th of that year. They met a very friendly Payaya Indian tribe camped along this river's banks, who had previously named the river